Still searching for your traces, the static of my soul. Love like a shadow, always close but never stay.
Today we're talking about communication and how to become a better communicator. The first question you have to ask yourself is, why would you want to become a better communicator? Well, in order to navigate yourself through this world, you've got your goals, I've got my goals. At some point, they might conflict. So when they do conflict, perhaps it's with your partner, perhaps it's with a friend, perhaps it's with someone at work, you have three options. Option number one is you force other people to do what you want in order to achieve what you want to do. You become a tyrant. Option number two is you become a bit of a slave, a pushover. You just do what other people want you to do because you're afraid of confrontation. And number three is somewhere in the middle, the negotiator, where you learn to communicate your thoughts, organize and communicate your thoughts in a manner which is comprehensible to the people around you, so you're not misunderstood, and both of you, usually at the end of the day, reach your intended goal of the conversation or wherever you're heading in life, whatever direction you're heading. So you have to look at yourself and think, where do I sit? And I would say that a lot of people that might be watching this video probably feel like they are in the pushover, bit of a slave pushover type of person, where they're just getting told what to do because they're afraid of confrontation. And perhaps you're afraid of confrontation because you're not very good at articulating yourself. And it's not that you're dumb, it's not that you're stupid or not capable. It just means that a lot of the time you might be quite switched on. It's just you have so many thoughts going at the same time and you become overwhelmed in a particular scenario or situation that you just don't know, you don't have the right words to communicate the complexity of what you're actually thinking. And that's a very frustrating place to be. And I've spent many years in that place before, and I still spend a lot of time in that place. I'm still working on my communication skills. It's very difficult. Now, there's a lot of different fundamentals of communication. The ones which you might hear are vocabulary, which is defined, I guess, as the total number of words that you understand, which is very different to your lexicon, which is the common words or phrases which you actually use in your communication day to day. Editing Ben here. I just want to make a quick clarification when I was talking about vocabulary and lexicon. So with your vocabulary, there are two types. There is your recognition vocabulary, which is the words which you recognize but don't necessarily say. And then there's your productive vocabulary, which is the words which you actually say on a regular basis, which is also sometimes described as your surface lexicon. Sorry for any confusion. I've probably confused you more. Enjoy the video. And what we want to work on when we're working on communication is we want to essentially work on both of them, because when someone's talking to you and they say a word, then you understand what they're saying. But then also your lexicon, because you want to be able to condense what you're trying to say into shorter sentences a lot of the time. Less filler words, less ums and ahs and ands and ands. You can say and is fine. So when speaking with someone, first of all, what you should do is you'd have to work out what your goal is of the conversation, because a lot of people get this wrong. Is it something at work where you're trying to solve a problem? Is it something within your relationship which has been bothering you that you need to bring up with your partner? Whatever it is, make sure that you're clear with your goal, because it's very easy to go off track when you actually start talking to one another. Very easy. And all of a sudden the conversation starts with an intended goal and it diverts over to, hang on a second, they've just misunderstood me, or they said this thing about me, now I'm gonna focus on that, and you completely lose track of where you were actually heading in the first place. So make sure you're clear on where you're heading with the conversation. Second of all, when you're talking to someone, learn to listen. I'm very bad at this. I talk a lot and I need to work on I have actually worked on my listening skills quite a lot, because I've understood that in order to achieve my goal in the conversation, a lot of what I actually need to do is listen to the other person. And I promise you, that is probably the same for yourself. You don't do enough listening, you do too much thinking and talking. And I promise you, if you learn to listen more, then if you actually truly understand what the other person is saying, then you will know how to respond to them in the correct manner, which helps you achieve your desired goal. I promise you, that's how it works. That's the magic right there with communication. Because when someone is listening to you, What it does is it allows you as the person speaking to be able to speak for longer and therefore organize your thoughts. The longer you speak without someone responding you and taking you off on a slightly different track, the more time you have to organize your own thoughts. And when you have time to organize your own thoughts, a lot of the time you actually resolve your own issues that you've been dealing with. So just being a good listener allows that person to do that, and it can be extremely effective. So try not to butt in too quickly when someone's talking to you. Let them have a pause, let them think about things for a second, because I promise you it's going to be not only beneficial for them, but it's going to be beneficial for you, because you stop diverting the conversation into 20 little directions and going around in circles. You allow them to actually think their thoughts all the way through to the end before then finally moving on to another topic. So now you've done the listening, let's go on to when you're actually speaking. One of the best things you can do is to attempt to remove your filler words. The ums, the ahs, the whatever it might be. I have my own. Everyone has them. There's a couple of things I would suggest. First of all, if you've got a friend or a partner, anyone like that, a parent, ask them ahead of time, say, hey, in the future when I'm speaking with you, if you notice that I'm saying and ah too often, can you please point that out? Maybe it's not and ah, maybe it's another filler word, a different word that you lean on, or perhaps it's a word that you don't necessarily lean on, but you use to finish off a sentence without actually finishing off the sentence. It's very, very common. When people say and stuff or whatever, attempt to remove that, because you're not actually learning to communicate any better, you're just being lazy. And it's recognized by everyone else around you. Another thing you can do is you can learn to have pauses when you speak. It's very difficult for a lot of people, especially teenagers and people in their 20s, because things are moving so fast, and if you're in a group scenario, you feel like you always have to be talking or saying something to fill that awkward gap of silence. And it can be a little bit uncomfortable, but I promise you, if you practice it, you will become a better communicator, because you need time to think. The next thing you can do is you can write more often. Perhaps you don't write very often at the moment. I promise you, writing is going to be one of the most beneficial ways of improving your communication, because what it does is it slows down your thought process so you can organize your thoughts more clearly. And when you learn to organize your thoughts more clearly, you start to notice patterns of ways in which your thoughts operate. So what I mean by that is, if I just say a lot of stuff, I'm not actually really thinking. A lot of it is kind of subconscious, and it just kind of flows through. So in order to improve that, you need to slow it down, just like learning any other skill. If you want to improve that skill, you need to slow it down. And in order to slow it down, writing is one of the best ways you can do that. Journal about your day, write about a story which you've come up with, write about just any thoughts that you might be having, any troubles which are bothering you at the moment, whatever it might be. It doesn't really matter, but spend time every day, every couple of days, 10 minutes, just writing a page of notes, of some sort of notes. And you'll recognize patterns in your own thinking and your own communication when you write it out. And that gives you more room for improvement, and it gives you a better ability to see it holistically as a macro view, and then be able to pick out pieces and work on them. It also allows you to work on your lexicon in a much greater capacity, because instead of it's difficult to work on your lexicon when you're just talking all the time. It's much easier to work on your lexicon when you're either reading or writing, because it's a slower process than talking. Hi there, how are you? Nah, you're fine. Hello. So exciting. Yeah. Which leads me on to the next point, which is to read more often. If you read more words, you're going to not only increase your understanding of a multitude of words, but you're also going to improve the words which you use on a daily basis. Because the only way you're actually going to figure out any new words is you're either possibly going to hear them from myself or a podcast. And audiobooks can be a good way to do this, but I would say that actually reading and seeing the words is going to be more beneficial than just hearing them. So find any book you want. It doesn't matter what book it is. Well, maybe if it's Spot the Dog or something basic, you're probably not going to learn too much. However, if it's something on the fifth grade reading level or above, I promise you're probably going to improve your vocabulary, your lexicon, and your communication skills. And lastly, guys, don't be afraid to practice communicating more often. because you can speak with your partner or your friends or your parents or whoever and just let them know, say, hey, look, I might be communicating a little bit differently moving forward. I just want to practice improving my communication, improving my vocabulary, and organizing my thoughts more coherently and efficiently so that I'm not misinterpreted, because I feel like I'm getting misinterpreted a lot, or I feel like people think I'm dumb, and I actually feel like I'm quite switched on and smart. I just need help organizing those thoughts so that people can comprehend what I'm saying and what I'm thinking more appropriately. And don't be afraid to use ChatGPT either. ChatGPT is fantastic for practicing with communication. AI is phenomenal. So use ChatGPT, use your friends, family, whatever, and don't be afraid to get out there and practice, because I promise you're either going to get stuck in the social norm of your friend group and how they communicate, and if it's at quite a low level, then you're going to be stuck there forever. If it's at a high level, then that's great for you, because if you surround yourself with people that communicate very well, then you're going to improve at a much faster rate. So that's the video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a comment down below. I would love to know if there's any other topics you want me to talk about. Otherwise, enjoy this video over here or over here. I think it's over here, which is on confidence. If you want to improve your confidence, how to become more confident as a man, click this video. I promise you it's going to help. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow.
I'm dancing through the echoes.